allegedly at the hands of a fellow exchange student who is just 13 years old.
2025 was supposed to be different. But by August, America had already witnessed some of the most disturbing teenage murder cases in recent memory. Teen crime rates are at their highest in over a decade. Social media has amplified violence. And the stories you're about to hear prove that evil knows no age limit. Welcome back to What the Verdict. Today we're covering 5 recent cases that shocked the nation. From a TikTok influencer who turned murder into content, to an international student who brought violence to a peaceful homestay. These aren't historical crimes. These happened within the last year. And they'll make you question everything you thought you knew about today's teenagers. Buckle up, because these stories will haunt you. Sarah Grace Patrick, the TikTok killer. Our first case takes us to Carroll County, Georgia, where social media manipulation reached deadly new heights. February 20th, 2025. Sarah Grace Patrick, 17, shot and killed her mother, Kristen Brock, 41, and stepfather James Brock, 45, while they slept in their Carrollton home. But this wasn't just another family murder. This was the beginning of one of the most calculated social media deceptions ever documented. After the couple's 5-year-old daughter discovered the bodies, Sarah called 911, playing the role of devastated daughter perfectly. But what happened next was truly chilling. Sarah began posting grieving TikToks, reaching out to true crime bloggers, and building a following of sympathetic viewers. She used TikTok to seek sympathy and assistance in solving her parents' murders. Murders she had committed herself. The manipulation was sophisticated. Sarah reached out to TikTok influencers for help, asking them to spread awareness about her parents' unsolved murders. She attended their funeral, giving a tearful eulogy 5 months before she would be charged with their deaths. How could someone murder their parents, then use their deaths for social media fame? The Carroll County Sheriff's Office gathered mountains of digital and physical evidence in collaboration with the FBI and Georgia Bureau of Investigation. On July 8, 2025, Sarah turned herself in, ending 5 months of deception. As of August 2025, Sarah has been denied bail, and the case remains under investigation. A teenager who turned murder into content, proving that social media influence has reached a terrifying new low. Carly Gregg, the mother killer. Our second case takes us to Brandon, Mississippi, where a seemingly normal 14-year-old would commit the ultimate betrayal. March 19, 2024. Carly Gregg appeared to be a typical teenager until her mother made a discovery that would cost her life. When Ashley Smiley found vape pens hidden in Carly's bedroom during a routine search, she had no idea she had just signed her own death warrant. What happened next defied belief. Carly, just 14 years old, calmly walked to another room, retrieved her mother's own handgun, and returned to execute her with 2 shots to the face. But Carly wasn't done. Security cameras captured her methodical movements as she planned her next move. She texted her friend with bone-chilling casualness, "Are you squeamish around dead bodies?" After showing her friend the corpse, Carly crafted an elaborate trap for her stepfather, sending text messages pretending to be her mother. When Heath arrived expecting to find his wife, Carly was waiting in ambush. She shot him while telling her friend, "I put 3 in my mom, and I got 3 more waiting for my stepdad." On September 20th, 2024, after less than 2 days of trial, Carly was convicted and sentenced to life without parole. The jury deliberated for less than an hour, rejecting her insanity defense. At just 14, Carly Gregg had committed matricide with the emotional detachment of a seasoned killer. The evidence was clear. This wasn't mental illness. This was calculated, cold-blooded murder. Alexis Martin, the trafficking survivor's return. Our third case brings us to Ohio, where a story of survival, redemption, and setback reveals the complex reality of juvenile justice. August 4th, 2025. Alexis Martin walked free from an Ohio courtroom after serving over 11 years for a crime she committed at age 15. But this wasn't a typical teen killer case. This was a sex trafficking victim whose story divided the nation. In 2013, 15-year-old Alexis was sentenced to life in prison for killing her trafficker. The case gained national attention when celebrities like Kim Kardashian West championed her cause, arguing that trafficking victims shouldn't be criminalized for defending themselves against their abusers. Governor Mike DeWine initially commuted her sentence in 2020, recognizing her as a trafficking victim. But the system failed her again. She was sent back to prison in 2022 after a parole violation. What makes Alexis's story different from our other cases? Context. While she took a life as a teenager, she did so as a victim fighting for survival in impossible circumstances. Her final release in 2025 came with strict conditions: ankle bracelet monitoring, therapy, anger management, and parole until 2034. At 27, Alexis Martin finally has a chance at the life that was stolen from her as a child. This case forces us to ask, when is a teenage killer also a victim? And how do we balance justice with mercy for children trapped in unthinkable circumstances? The exchange student murder. Our fourth case crosses international borders, taking us to Newcastle, Australia, where the dream of studying abroad became a nightmare. August 4th, 2025. A 13-year-old Chinese exchange student was charged with murder over the alleged stabbing death of a 14-year-old girl at a homestay home in Newcastle. Two young girls, thousands of miles from home, living with a host family who welcomed them with open arms. The suspect and victim had no known prior relationship. What could drive a 13-year-old to murder a fellow exchange student? The death has rattled the Hunter School community, where both girls were supposed to be building their futures through education. Instead, one life is gone, and another is destroyed by an act of incomprehensible violence. The case highlights the vulnerability of young people far from home. These students were supposed to be living the experience of a lifetime. Instead, they became part of a tragedy that will haunt two families across two continents. At just 13, this girl became one of the youngest people ever charged with murder in Australia. A reminder that evil truly has no age limit. Wisconsin school shooting. Our final case brings us to Madison, Wisconsin, where December 2024 brought one of the year's most shocking school violence incidents. December 16, 2024. Abundant Life Christian School became the scene of tragedy when a teenage student opened fire, killing a teacher and fellow student before taking her own life.
The trauma, it's a lot.
I heard gunshots and screaming, and it was all really scary. I was screaming like, "Ah, my leg, help!"
What makes this case particularly disturbing is that the shooter was a 15-year-old girl. Female school shooters remain extremely rare, representing less than 3% of such incidents. The incident rocked the small Christian school community, where students and families believed they were safe from the violence plaguing public schools nationwide. School shooting cases involving teenage girls force us to confront uncomfortable questions about youth violence, mental health, and access to weapons. What drives a female teenager to commit the ultimate act of school violence? While the investigation continues, this case serves as a stark reminder that school violence can strike anywhere, committed by anyone, even those we'd least suspect. The rarity of female school shooters makes each case particularly shocking, challenging our assumptions about gender and violence among teenagers. Analysis: 5 cases, 5 different circumstances, but they all share common threads that reveal disturbing trends about teenage violence in America. Social media amplification, immediate access to weapons, decreased impulse control, and most disturbing of all, the apparent absence of empathy in young killers. These aren't isolated incidents. FBI data shows juvenile violent crime rates increasing for the first time in decades. The cases you've heard today represent a growing crisis that law enforcement and communities struggle to address. What's changed? Why are teenagers today capable of such calculated violence? These are questions that demand answers before more young lives are lost. 5 recent cases that prove 2025 has already become one of the darkest years for teenage violence in recent memory. From Sarah Grace Patrick's social media manipulation to international students bringing violence to peaceful homestays, these stories show us that evil can emerge anywhere, at any age. Behind every case is a victim whose life was cut short. Families destroyed, communities shattered, all because teenagers chose violence over any other solution. These cases remind us that the teenage years, once considered a time of innocence and discovery, can also be a time of unimaginable darkness. Let me know in the comments which case shocked you the most. Was it Sarah Grace Patrick's calculated social media deception? The international tragedy in Australia? Or the violence that struck a school sporting event? These stories are difficult to tell, but they need to be told. Because ignoring the problem won't make it disappear. Don't forget to subscribe to What the Verdict and hit that notification bell. We'll continue following these cases as they develop through the legal system. And remember, in 2025, innocence isn't guaranteed by age. Evil can wear the face of a teenager.